close for anybody, you feel uncomfortable with it, you can drop back behind the table, whoever you're sitting with, or just generate the space that you feel comfortable with, I would say. Don't want anybody to feel crowded. Also, there's some extra agendas over on this little table. So you didn't get one, grab one.
And masks. If you're uncomfortable, there's extra masks.
Yesterday, I got a text from Technical College System of Georgia, Neil Bidding, the operations manager for Technical College System of Georgia, and he said that something that y'all wouldn't have known anything about, but when money in the state government is given to a certain project, it's assigned, but it's not obligated, and it's not officially turned loose for use until it's obligated. So, you know, this maintenance school is something that I've been very passionate about, and also a little bit concerned that everything would go through with the pandemic and the other economic considerations that the State House is going to have to make. But the text that was sent to me from Neil was that the OPB, you ever work with the state, it's Office of Planning and Budget, and money doesn't go anywhere until OPB approves it and it's all signed off on. So that really just happened yesterday, and so I put that out to the post commissioners, and Sandy comes back with her emoji, and Bitmoji, is that what it's called? You know, a picture of Sandy on, and she's jumping up and says, "Let's party." So,
is that really what she said?
Yes, I said, "Yay, let's party."
as a result, there's a cake on the table, and we're partying, and it just says, so it makes some sense, it says OPB approves the design planning, which is $2.4 million. So, you know, we're on the road, putting that in motion. It's been a great delay because of the COVID-19. But welcome everybody, glad to have y'all here. It does my heart good to see all of us coming together and to be able to strategize together. I think I'm thankful that Michael called and said, "Hey, we met on August 20th, and our first meeting was in June, so this is our third meeting." And he said, "Isn't it about time for another meeting?" And you know, with Christmas coming up and elections and things like that, I had really not thought about it. So thank you, Michael, for getting us back on track here, and our next meeting will probably be around March. Typically, when the BOC meets, traditionally we have an invitation. So I didn't ask anybody to do that, but my daughter last Christmas gave me a deck of cards, but they're not cards like playing cards. It's got scripture on it, and this is Proverbs, real short. "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plan." Short and sweet, and I'm going to lead us in prayer. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this day. Start out December and really have a breath of winter coming through, and it just makes us appreciate all the seasons. We thank you for all the blessings of life. We thank you for having your guarding hands around Paulding County and amongst these families as we celebrate the season. May we just celebrate life together, and we ask for your wisdom and your guidance in everything that we do and everything that we do plan. In Christ's name, amen. So Baker Street, to my right, and I, we're kind of cut out of the same cloth in enjoying something inspirational, a quote or a song. I've forgotten more songs than he knows, you know. Or he, what's the saying? You know a lot more songs than I'll ever talk to you about. But I asked him this morning, we have a 2-3 minute thing in our department head meetings that, you know, just inspires you a little bit about leadership or about service, or any number of things. So I don't know what he's got this week, but I asked him to present something this morning, and I'm sure it'll be a takeaway for all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those of you that have heard me speak before, I sometimes talk about my wife and how my wife gets really nervous when I speak because she always says, I never know what I'm going to say. And truly, he doesn't know what I'm going to say today, so I think he might be a little bit nervous. He did ask me to consider talking about a friend of mine, and next time we meet, I'll try to get that friend of mine on the phone. And he's just not available. He's actually got COVID, so yeah. So anyway, I won't tell you who it is, so it'll be a surprise. But appreciate the chance to speak this morning. I'm going to take about 4 minutes and 30 seconds, hopefully, maybe a little bit less. I appreciate my brother from another mother over here keeping time. But appreciate, Mr. Chairman, the prayer this morning, and I'm going to go a little bit further than that. And I'm going to say to all of y'all that on game day or test day, sometimes you need to pray for yourselves. So we appreciate the group prayer, but today I want to talk about praying for yourself. I'm going to peel back a little bit of the onion. For those of you who've known me a little while, I think you always find with me there's things that you don't know about me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and it's going to go back a few years to high school. I was blessed to be able to go to a Catholic all-boys high school in the community that I grew up in. That's one of the reasons why I'm a big Notre Dame fan. Go Irish. And I'll never forget, I had a number of great instructors. These were Catholic brothers and Catholic nuns and lay teachers. And I learned a lot, but guess what? I didn't really understand what I learned until years later. And that happens to all of us, doesn't it? We hear a message or we hear something or we go through life's journey, and we experience something that the light bulb goes off maybe a few years later. And for me, I had a brother, a Catholic brother, that taught chemistry and physics. And I want to talk a little bit about him today. He was also our soccer coach and our basketball coach and the baseball coach. So he was like one of the mainstays with our teams. And he was all about teamwork. And we're about team Paulding, right? So I want to talk a little bit about team Paulding and teamwork and how important it is. And I didn't really realize what he did, but when I took a chemistry class from him, before we had our first test, he would lead us in prayer every morning. Every single morning. And then we had our first test. And he goes around, y'all remember those blue books in school? And he went around and he had these blue books and he put them on everyone's desk. Now I want to give you this visual image. This was a Catholic brother that wore the old habit. He didn't wear street clothes. Even when he coached soccer, he wore the habit and tennis shoes. So he was old school. Old school. And he says, don't turn your test paper over, don't turn your blue book over, and get ready until I say go. And so he says, has everybody got their test, their blue book? Yes, brother, we do. Is there any questions? And I raised my hand. And he says, Mr. Baker, what's your question? And I go, brother, you've forgotten to lead us in prayer this morning. He says, on test day, you must pray for yourselves. So I thought about that. And I thought, this is the ultimate team guy. Basketball, soccer, baseball. And he always led us in class, in prayer. And he always led us as a team, working together on projects and solving those problems as a team. But I didn't learn until years later when I thought about it, what was he trying to teach us? Inadvertently, what he was teaching us was, it's important to motivate you as an individual so that you can be the best team member that you can be. So think about that. Think about what we're here to do today. Team Paulding is like a wheel. And everyone here is a leader. And everyone is a spoke of that wheel. One of my favorite football coaches is Lou Holtz, obviously Notre Dame. And Lou Holtz is known as a pretty good speaker. And the chairman actually made reference to Lou Holtz. I might even have Lou Holtz call in the next time. This might have Lou Holtz call in. But Lou Holtz talks about teamwork and motivation of teams. And he says, you can't motivate a team. You can't motivate a group. You've got to motivate an individual. You've got to motivate an individual to make that team work. Think about that. Each of the spokes of that wheel have to be in good shape for that bicycle to roll. Mr. Cable, you're a cyclist. What happens when you have one bad spoke on that wheel?
Probably looks like me, like what I would ride when I don't have one.
That wheel's going to be wobbling and it's not going to work. So we are the spokes of the team, and think about that. So I know we've had the prayer from Dave, but let's just take a moment of silence and pray for ourselves today, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Under announcements, the purpose of the joint meeting, that may seem redundant. Why are we gonna spend the time here, hour and a half or whatever it takes for us to go through the agenda? And I wrote down a few bullet points. You may have more, and feel free to throw them out. But, I talked about silos at one of our previous meetings, and we're not 8 silos. We wanna be all one unit, so it keeps, the multi-boards, as the first bullet point says, in the loop. It avoids the silos. I think we gain maximum effectiveness. We can bounce a lot of ideas off one another. It certainly, for me, I have a sense of synergy when we leave these meetings, kind of empowered. And finally, the rumor control. We all know how that can get out of hand. So if we're all in here hearing the same things, there's going to be a less likelihood for rumors to kick off and for communications to be made inaccurately. On the opposite, we'll have accurate communications based on what the leaders that Frank has described discuss with one another. Next on the agenda is Michael Hughes with the EDO IBA Director's reports. So Michael, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. You wanna- Before I turn Michael loose, a couple quick things from the IBA standpoint. This December will be my last meeting as on the IBA. My term is up, and Mr. Carmichael will hopefully appoint a new person to that post that will help us out, and I'm hopeful that Mr. Tom Morris at the other end of the table will step up and take the reins from there and lead the group. I really wanted to say 2 things. The IBA was in the business of economic development for far longer than it should have been. I think over the last year, bringing Michael into the program, getting the EDO stood up and done, and doing the things that we've done, we've gotten the IBA back to what it should be. We have one last project from the economic development side that we have to divest ourselves from, this property that we bought out on Bill Creek Parkway, and Michael's gonna talk a little bit about that, I think, in his update. But bottom line is I'm a person who likes to leave it better than I found it. I think we've done that in the last 2 years. I think we've put the IBA and the county in a position to significantly profit from the development of the property out on Caruth Parkway and give the EDO the funds it needs to move forward with its mission of economic development for the county. So Michael has been very instrumental in slowly but surely moving that needle back to where it should have been. I don't know, however many years ago, Stacy, you've been around as long as any of us on this IBA thing, and probably could talk a little more about that. But But, but bottom line is, I feel like we've got the IBA in a position to be, and fulfill its stated mission. And the EDO is working well together to move that ball forward. So to that end, I'll turn it over to Michael, and he will bring you up to speed.
Thank you, Dan, I appreciate that. I'm going to vary just slightly on the agenda a little bit and actually touch on the draft economic development strategy, the strategic plan for economic development for Paulding, because I think without a blueprint, you're just kind of meandering and so forth. And so I think it's important to establish a blueprint or foundation. And so I have some hard copies of what I'm going to go over with you guys, but I'm happy to email that to everybody so you have a copy. And keep in mind as you review it, it is a draft at this point. Let me mention too, some of you have already met her, but Tracy Halsey has joined my team at the EDO. She's a project manager and came on board at the end of August. So that was after the last meeting. She wasn't able to join us here today, but just wanted you to know she's on board. She's a project manager, happy to have her on board. She and I work together in economic development in Cobb County, so just wanted to mention her name. This is the strategy, and I don't want to read all of this, but I do want to read a couple of things here related to the vision, the mission, and then the purpose. The vision, as we've defined it at this point, is to create a positive business climate in Paulding County and improve the economic well-being and quality of life of its citizens. The mission is to promote commercial development in appropriate areas of the county to create a balanced tax digest that's capable of generating sufficient tax revenue to meet the growing public service and infrastructure needs of the community through an interconnected economic development process. And then the purpose of the EDO is to promote and enhance the economic vitality of Paulding County, the cities of Dallas, Hiram, by recruiting new businesses, helping local businesses sustain and expand their local operations, promote tourism, develop a quality workforce by focusing on employment, job skills training, support entrepreneurs and foster startup activity, enhance and protect Paulding County's quality of life, and then maintain vibrant downtowns and community centers. So those are all key statements that I think need to get out, and wanted to communicate that to this group. We've identified 5 strategic goals. I'll quickly go over those real quick, but the first one is to promote Paulding County's image, business climate, and a brand for economic development. The second goal is to position Paulding County for economic development and redevelopment. The third goal is to develop marketable product, and by that we mean sites, buildings, and infrastructure. The fourth goal is to promote economic redevelopment within the cities of Dallas and Hiram. And then the fifth goal is to maintain Paulding County's quality of life, community development. Under each of those goals, we won't go through all of this, we have specific objectives, and then we have specific strategies for each of those goals. The next steps for this document will, and I'll just show you this, is to sort of fill in the implementation matrix. We'll actually identify the responsible parties for implementing each of those strategies, the time frame for implementing them, and then any resources that are needed, either staff or additional funding that may be available. So what we'll do is we'll finish this, and then we'll actually build a budget around implementing this economic development strategy for Paulding County. So again, like I said, I'm happy to share this electronically. Everybody can take a look at it. In terms of next steps, we'll be presenting this to the EDO board for review and approval once it's finalized. And then this will be sort of our marching orders going forward. The beauty about this too is that we'll revisit this on an annual basis, just to look at it, to see if there's anything that needs to be adjusted, any changes, things that have been accomplished will fall off, any new things that need to be added will be added as well. Any questions about that? Just a couple of updates. Website. We are currently engaged in conversations with 3 entities that will be submitting proposals to us to develop the EDO's website. One company is called Diversified Technology. Another group is out of Kennesaw State. The other is a company called 524 Creative. They're a group out of Marietta that we've been engaged or had some conversations with. I think I've shared with you the importance of having a website where we believe we can have something up and running the first quarter of 2021, and probably have something probably halfway, well, maybe after we get them under contract, probably within about 60 days, have something up and running that we can begin to share, and then we will add to it over time. But we're excited about this capability because this is websites and any electronic media are usually the way companies get familiar with the community, and we want to be sure that the information that we're putting on this website is one, it's up to date and current, it's not stale. The other thing is it conveys the overall positive setting, if you will, of the community, and so we want to be sure that it is top-notch and high quality. The other thing, and Dan alluded to this too, we're currently putting together, we actually will go out this Friday, request for qualifications for a master developer for the B18 or the property that's on Bill Caruth. This will be going out this Friday. We are trying to secure a developer that would be interested in developing the property and then ultimately purchasing the property from us for an industrial park. I have 5 industrial developers that this information will be going out to. They'll have approximately a week to respond. We'll evaluate and score each of those responses and then present a recommendation to the IBA at their next board meeting on December 17th. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You want to elaborate on B18 a little bit more? I know IBA folks and EDO are probably familiar, but
Sure. This is a 127-acre tract of land that the IBA purchased a couple of years ago,
18 months?
18 months or so. And it's between Nebo and Laird Roads. And it actually, there's property on both sides of the road in that location. And the intent was to develop it for industrial purposes. One of the things that reflected in this RFQ is knowing that we are looking at changing or adding new zoning classifications, e-commerce, e-logistics, and others. We want to look at opportunities to support that type of activity, business development in that area. And so that's kind of how we're positioning the property. The other thing I mentioned too is that sewer will be available at that location relatively soon, and like by the end of the year. So we're excited about that, and we think that adds value to any future industrial developer or purchaser of that property. So we look forward to that.
Well, Michael hasn't told you, he spent a lot of time working with both the cities, the county, basically putting a list of incentives together that everybody sort of bought into, so that no matter where you go in the county, your process doesn't look that much different if you want to develop something from an economic standpoint on the business side. And I think that's important that everybody realizes that he's actually been pretty modest down there. He's done a lot of work to line everything up in the county, so that when somebody goes in to any of the jurisdictions to move a project forward, they're looking at roughly the same set of rules, regs, where obviously they can line up. There are certain things obviously that are going to be different in the cities that are going to be different in the counties from an infrastructure standpoint. But at the end of the day, it's all pretty close to the same, or will be by the time this is all wrapped up. And that'll make it a lot easier for people to come to Paulding County and not have to worry so much about where they locate their business and make the best decision for their business instead of possibly competing internally with each other for locations and spots. So I think that's important to note. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I concur with you. I've met with Hiram and with Dallas and provided them with some information about those incentive programs, and they're looking at those internally to see where those might fit into their processes.
You got anything you want to add?
I mean, I'll say, I just, I thank Michael and all the ones on the EDO board, and Dave and all the commissioners, and Ann also, she's been a real big part from day one as far as getting this county up to where it needs to be, working with Fred Bentley Jr. and getting that stuff done, so. And Michael was done great, work, a lot of work, like you said, but, one thing that motivated me is when I was running, campaigning, I had someone say that government cannot do economic development. And I'm glad to see that we're proving them wrong, because we can. We don't provide jobs and create jobs and stuff like that, but we can create the environment to invite businesses here, so. I'm just glad to see that Dallas and Hiram and Paulding County's all on board, so. Thank you.
David, you're next on the agenda.
Great, thank you. The Paulding County Airport Planning Open House was held on Tuesday, November 17th. The meeting was advertised in the Dallas paper. We had a total of 25 attendees that joined us that night. We had written comments from a couple of the pilots, the AOP organization, which is the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, and a few verbal comments from attendees. The majority of the comments were from aircraft owners interested in T-hangars. The number of folks currently on the T-hanger waiting list here at Paulding County numbers 43. T-hanger details, you can roughly get about $350 a month. It's about a $90,000 tax valuation on average each. That's about $1,000 revenue per airplane to the county. The cost to build T-hangars, a 10-unit building, is about $100,000 each. That's an engineering estimate. We surveyed local similar-sized airports in a 40-mile radius, and there is no availability for T-hangars. So you can see the demand here for T-hangars, and we do have the land and ability to provide that. Paulding County's airport 5-year capital improvement plan was filed with the state of Georgia. This is the same plan that we went over in November at the open house. The Airport Authority Board is currently weighing options on funding for projects. Terry, is there anything I left out?
Just the fact that we created over $500,000 in ad valorem tax this year for the county. 2/3 of that goes to the school system. And so anybody who says the airport is not making a contribution, I would argue with that.
Dave, I think you should also just briefly touch on the fact that we have our own FBO. Now we're in control of control of our destiny there.
Thank you, Dan. That, I believe, was in October we established that, right, Terry?
October 1.
October 1. So the previous provider here at the airport did not renew their lease, and we've done some research and decided that we could take that ability in-house to provide fuel and services to the customers here at the airport. We did establish that, a good bit of hard work. Terry did a tremendous amount of work on that. We brought it in-house here, started October 1st. So what that allows us to do is that allows us to better handle our brand and the customer aspect as they come into the county here at the airport. Before, we've lost that ability with a third party running that. This way, we have better control over the brand and the customer service that we can provide to the airport.
And the fuel sales are now 100% at the airport, so the margin, rather than just taking a small cut of it, is that revenue all comes back to the airport. And it'll take a little bit of time to recover the initial investment on equipment that we had to replace. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a significant revenue driver for the airport. It should make the balance sheet and income statement look a lot different in 12 months. Would you agree with that statement?
True statement.
But I'd say that even with COVID and its effects of the traffic, we should have some good numbers going forward. We look forward to this picking up and us having better margins as we go forward.
And I think the idea has been to do everything that the airport authority can to have this airport become independent of its financial needs from any of the other co-sponsors as we have them right now, which fortunately the BOC has been very helpful with. So I think, you know, that we're charting a path forward to financial independence for the airport over a period of time, and it should happen sooner than later with some of the moves that we're making with regard to the future of the airport and how we control the brand, as David said.
Absolutely, that's what we'd like to do, is become independent, standalone, and be able to help give back to the county.
I was reading over some questions from a constituent, several months old, probably close to a year old. Actually, they were questions that were asked of Post 2 Commissioner Sandy Caker. I just had a copy of it. But the question pertained to how much corporate space do you lease out at the airport? And that's one thing that's happened in the last few months. So I'm just going to pick on somebody. Greg Perry, do you know anything about commercial property that's leased out at the airport? If you do, we won't cover it, but if you don't, I'm going to get Dave to answer it. Say no.
Greg's not sure what he's supposed to say. Yes, sir.
Good setup.
So
Well, we
Dave,
have-
Gary, talk about the space we've got leased out.
Currently, right now, Hangar 1, we have leased out to an operator that has a Gulfstream 650, which is providing, well, what did we say it was on the value that brought back to the county?
That one airplane was 490,000 roughly.
Which, Dave, was equal to how many homes?
108.
108 homes. So that's a sizable amount that comes back to the county itself.
That's music to Brian's ears.
I can't see him smile.
And no children come with that airplane.
Right, that's a good part there too, but we have plenty of space here for development, in which we show in our 5-year plan on developing on this side of the airport here, land so that we can have expansion for, how many is it, Terry?
29 spots.
29 pads for those larger aircraft, which would then benefit the county, as you can see. But right now, we have a gem that's sitting here, it's basically a blank canvas, and we have a lot of opportunity. But in order to get moving, we need to get past some hurdles that we previously have had, and I think we're getting close to that, to where that we can develop this, the airport to where it'll benefit the citizens and the county here itself, and that's what we hope to do. Again, reiterating the fact that we want to be independent and stand alone, but it'll take probably a little bit of help to get moving. Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
The lease spaces, office spaces, pilot's lounge, and just we're getting revenue off of that.
We are. Terry, I'll defer to you. You want to talk to the point about what we have as far as leases?
So today, pretty much everything at the airport is leased out. We've got a church that meets in this building once a week. We've got Flying Tigers Flight School. We've got the Museum of Flight, who is having their official ribbon cutting next week. We've got a FAA designated pilot examiner who does check rides and that sort of thing that's now operating his business out of here. Matt Puzelli is maintaining an office out of this building. So we've just got a whole lot going on out here. We're a small incubator basically for small businesses out here, and It's just something most people don't know about, all the activity and the jobs and so forth that happen right here on this 700-acre tract of land.
We do have a maintenance repair facility here, which is also good on bringing in business as well. And Mr. Jenkins has been here, wow,
5 years now.
predates
Yeah.
me, and his business has grown over a period of time. So that's the type of business that we would like to attract here that makes the airport much more viable. People can come in, and if they have a problem, we have a solution for them there with the repair facility. But something like an MRO in this airport would be great to attract business.
What's an MRO?
It's a maintenance repair organization or facility.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I do want to take a second just to thank Dan for being part of our board. We do appreciate your help, your direction. Thank you for,
Oh, thanks, David.
for being with us, and good luck.
I'll be at the December meeting.
Excellent.
I think he wants to take two.
No, I don't want to go. Only if you make it.
I'm in.
Dave, rules of engagement.
Yeah, on the new business, kind of like the announcements where I want to review the purpose, it's on the attachment, but I don't want to waste anybody's time in having these meetings. And in the military, when you were training on air-to-air, we used to tease about fighter pilots. I was an attack pilot, so we still practiced air-to-air, so you're always doing these, you're talking in the club, you get behind somebody, but rules of engagement, you'd brief those thoroughly before you went up. Like if you ever did a fight down to 10,000 feet, whoever the first person to notice it would say, knock it off, so you aren't gonna go any lower. You'd all, just like on the highway out here, you'd always pass right to right, because you might be coming at 400 knots toward each other, and if you don't do something, you're gonna hit each other, so you go right to right. But there were numerous rules of engagement. So rules of engagement for us, and again, you can add more bullet points. Does the topic that we want to talk about, we're going to hear from Ann here in a minute, does it add value to the overall group of 8 organizations here? Let's just take Stacy, for example. If she would like to get in touch with all other 7 entities, she can do it all right here, rather than have to make 7 phone calls. So it saves time. A lot of times I want to call the cities and everybody, the chairman of different organizations here, and this saves time for me. The second and third bullet points, well, the second is to save time. The other close to it, it prevents any misinformation. So we're all leaving here with the same information, and somebody asks us about something, they're not hearing 2 different stories. If they talk to Amber and if they talk to Kendall, they'll hear the same thing. Keep it short. Baker Street's helped me learn that. Don't stretch your meetings out. And lastly, if the key components have already been shared with the group, then go to the individual. If I talk to Dan about something, and all the components of the topic are put out on the table, and a lot of it has to do with the city of Dallas, then next time just go to that, then pair up or get a 3-way call or conference going. So that's the rules of engagement I thought of. Can anybody else think of another one?
Well, I think doing this the way we're doing it, it's in the public forum. Citizens of the county can come back and see what we've done. Nobody's hiding anything. It's out there in the open, and I think the transparency piece, to put all of these folks in the same room, is really important from a taxpayer standpoint. So from that perspective, I think we've managed to do that. And one thing I would like to add to this is, as we have met through these processes, and the picture becomes clearer to some of us, a lot of you guys still go back and you have to deal with what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And this group together, it certainly gives you an opportunity to see what's going on with other people. But the important part for me has been, from the perspective of 3 boards over the last year, has been this. Everything that happens in this county has a direct tie to everybody in the room, but most importantly, we've got a responsibility to taxpayers of Paulding County to handle this growth that's coming in a responsible way. And if we're not sitting in a room together talking and discussing how the infrastructure needs are gonna be met, how the school system needs are gonna be met, how the economic development needs are gonna be met, and we're not doing this in a productive, forward-thinking way, then we're gonna end up with a mess on our hands. And I think there's plenty of smart people to solve all these problems. We just gotta keep doing what we're doing here, keep everybody around the table with a voice to discuss the issues and make sure everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction down the river. I had this conversation with Ann yesterday when I talked to her on the phone. She's gonna talk to you a little bit here in just a second, and I'm just gonna use that as a segue, but, you know, we're sitting here talking about economic development, but she's gonna tell you a little bit about the residential development that's slated for the county. And I've asked her and Mr. Hostetler with the school board to come together with some more information down the line that we want to be able to present, because there's a significant amount of residential growth that's slated for Paulding County, and I think she's gonna touch on that a little bit here in just a second. But that significant growth is gonna require retail space to support it, sewer to service it, utilities, all the things that go along with that, and we need to be responsible. We're already a low wealth school district based on our demographics for the whole county, and we need to be very careful how we balance the scale over the next 5 to 10 years, so that we don't put ourselves in a much deeper hole than we're looking at now from a tax revenue standpoint. So to that point, I'll turn it over to you, Ann.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to everybody today. Today is usually one of my favorite days of the month, because it's the day I look at and run the permit data. I do the permit data for 2 reasons. I like to track certificates of occupancies for houses as a way to project population growth. And I do it to see if I need more building inspectors or permit techs. But as we started this meeting, every month I try to send data to the
And we
school board.
appreciate it greatly.
I send data to City of Dallas, because we have Paulding County subdivisions that are on Dallas Sewer, so they are usually first on my list. I send permit data to Hiram, because we are their permitting office. I send permit data to Economic Development, because we track new building occupancies. He wants to know how many subdivisions and how many commercial developments we have. So if there's anybody who wants permit data, just let me know. So I did some of it a day early, just to give a snapshot of where we are this year on permit data. We've actually issued more permits this year than we did this time last year, which kind of surprised me. We've got 300 more. We've issued 5,672 permits. That's for everything. Sort of, I don't know if it's bad news. It's disappointing news to me. Last year, we had a dip in residential permits from the previous 2 years. This year, as of November 30th, we've already exceeded last year and the 2 years before it. We've issued 1,579 single-family permits in 2020. That's compared to last year, we had 230 commercial permits. This year, we have 200. So maybe, I don't know if in a month we'll get 300 or 30 non-residential permits, but we can hope. I think I mentioned this last time I was here, the value of non-residential permits greatly exceeds the value of residential permits. Last year, we had 3 big commercial permits. We had Greystone, we had Costco, and we had the Interroll expansion. We almost broke even between residential and commercial last year, but this year, we haven't had another Costco or another Greystone or another thing, so the value as of yesterday for this year, we had an addition of, I'm just gonna make the number simple, $48 million in commercial development and 142 million in single-family residential. So, and permits went down in October, but they went back up in November, so I'll be interested to see what residential does in December. This is usually the time of year where people build rather than permit. And Brian, I think you can share, I think there's some cost factors in the residential world that makes me surprised that we have issued so many. I think wood is up, I think windows is up. I'm sure some.
Supply doesn't, I mean, getting supplies now was just awful, waiting. And I think that's what's going on, you got people that's just getting started because they know they gotta wait. Wood,
Oh, so you think people are pulling permits sooner just to give themselves a little bit more lead time?
I think so, yeah, we are.
Each month, I break, just focusing on single-family residential, I break it up by commission post. This year, for the first time since I've worked for Paulding County, which is since 2013, Post 1 beat Post 4 twice. So, Post 1 had more, I think it was May and October. There were more permits issued in Post 1. So I think that's, if there's more permits, I think it's more diverse than it was a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, 65% of permits were issued in Post 4, and we've got the two biggest developments are actually in Post 1 that have issued the most permits. One's a senior attached development called Citizen Square, and Oakley Point Pickett's Ridge is the number 2 permitting. And I think if you're familiar with Riverwood subdivision that's off East Paulding, that's probably gonna get up into the top 3 next year. Let's see what else. Like I said, I track certificates of occupancy to track population. By my estimates, since 2010, we've added 28,075 people. That's an estimate based on 2.9 people per household that we issue a CO for. It's mostly, almost 16,000 of that was in Post 4, and the second is Post 1. And that's, you look at a map, and that's where sewer is available, so that's where you're gonna have more density. I think that's about the highlights I have for that. I know there's some discussion about what kind of number of platted lots we have, and I think Michael sort of alluded to, I've been working on a big project. I'm gonna take my time to put in a little pitch we're working on updating our zoning ordinance, our development regulations, our subdivision regulations, putting it into one document called a Unified Development Code, and I think that will be something, it's gonna be much more user-friendly. We're gonna have hyperlinks so that if you know, everything you need to see is in the right section, and if it's not, you just click on a button and it's just gonna take you to that. So that's what I've been working on since October 6th. That's when I started reformatting, and I've pretty much reformatted the zoning ordinance. And other teams are working on the development regulations, and we're gonna start putting those together soon. And I mean, our zoning ordinance was adopted in 2003. It's been amended but never overhauled. The development regulations were adopted in '99. There's been amendments, but no major overhauls. So that's been a big project that I've been working on in the past 2 months. I did look, the school board has asked us to do a presentation before their board on January 26th, so we're gonna focus on looking to see how many platted lots are out there for that presentation. So we'll be happy to share that with this group as well. And
Versus potential commercial to offset those platted lots, because I think that's important data for Michael to have if we're gonna continue to keep this balance of try to keep commercial permits balanced value-wise with residential permits, and I think that's kind of a key indicator for the EDO to sort of set their goal for the pipeline of commercial development. Does that make sense?
And that's after we get the Unified Development Code. We are actually gonna do our comprehensive plan update a year early, so we can join forces with the called the DOT, when they do their comprehensive transportation plan. Ours is gonna be simple. We wanna do 2 things. We wanna update our 5-year work program, and we want to make modifications to the future land use map to include more areas that'll be preserved and reserved for commercial development. So we wanna add a little more detail detail to that. And I think the last thing I have to add, I looked at, plan review, and since the end of September, we have looked at, some of them are approved, some of them are 1,833 lots. So that has not slowed down.
That's residential?
Yes. And I think that's about all I have, but I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I hope to do my quarterly presentation to the Board of Commissioners, so I'll have more data and present next Tuesday.
Thank you, Hannah, I appreciate you coming this morning.
Hey, question, man. So when you do all the numbers and stuff like that, is there a way to incorporate like City of Hiram and Dallas? Whereas I think we do for the City of Hiram already, but City of Dallas is also,
I do not. Every once in a while, I may reach out to Kendall or Michael and find out, how many permits they had, but I don't include their permit data.
because I've noticed like here lately around the City of Dallas, y'all had some commercial growth as far as even rebuilding out retail lots, shops and stuff, maybe stuff. And I'm sure Hiram, which would go to us anyway, I guess, but I like to try to include Dallas as possible.
We can definitely share that.
When she comes to that meeting, school board meeting in January, would you guys mind collaborating with her so that the school board gets a full picture from the cities and the county?
Absolutely.
Would that be okay, Ian?
Yeah.
Dr. Otot?
I have one question. In updating the comp plan, when we did the comp plan, as zoning sits today, with all the residential units that could come in the county, we could never support it.
Probably not, no.
Yeah, infrastructure or anything, school system could not. In your new unified development ordinance that you are looking at, are we addressing that?
Well, one thing we're proposing in the update, this summer, we look to see 75% of unincorporated Paulding County is zoned R2. R2, as we all know, allows 2 units per acre. Now, could you get 2 units on all of those acres? Probably not. The state owns a lot of it. The county owns a lot of it. Some of it, the environmental health would not permit that small of a lot. But with 75% of the county zone that, we have put in a provision that we hope will be adopted to phase out, not phase out R2, but to, in a few years, raise the minimum lot size in R2 to make it less than 2 units per acre. So that would definitely, because if you take 75% of the county, multiply the acreage times 2, that's a lot of people. It's a lot of little.
Yeah, but the yield and something like that, even like developing a subdivision, you couldn't do that anyway. The best of the best land in Paulding County was eat up in the 90s, 80s from the developers back in the day. So now the land, the majority of the land that's left out there is challenging land. So at the best, even with good land, you might have a 1.5, 1.6 yield when you got streets and buffers. So in that calculation, using using 2 per acre would be an extremely high number compared to what it really could be. So,
There was just a lot of data in that study
Yeah.
that we heard that not a lot of other people heard, and we tried to convey it to the leaders and everything.
That's important that's the reason this meeting's happening, so that kind of information gets to everybody so that
That's
they can.
kind of why I brought it up, because, just so the county as a whole is looking at, what really could be out there, and infrastructure going to those pieces, it's just things that, as we're going to update, it needs to be addressed and looked at closely.
Because one of the other things in the Unified Development Code, we're looking at adopting a steep slope ordinance to minimize some of the, you just can't. So that's a change.
What does that mean?
It would limit, like if you have slopes over a certain steepness, you couldn't grade them.
You couldn't build a house on it.
so the county does a complaint and issue with developers putting, when you have these 8,000 square foot lots and you put it on the side of a hill, and you got this right here, when you have drainage issues and walls, it's gonna affect stuff like that. That helps prevent stuff.
All right. So, any of the board of commissioners wish to speak on anything about issues or concerns that we haven't addressed? Dr. Otto, you guys got anything?
Yeah, I just want to share a few things and appreciate the opportunity to sit around with all these entities, because as someone mentioned earlier, it all flows back to all of us in one way or another. But once I want to start out with a good thing, is our graduation rate was over 90% this year. That's the first time in Paulding County School District history that's happened. And that is being in a low wealth district. And, you know, we talk about low wealth a lot. It's not related to per capita income. It's related to this imbalance in the tax digest that we're talking about here today. And it's the couple $2 billion piece of the pie for the school district. So again, our teachers are doing great work, our students are doing great work, there's so much to be proud of in their performance, and really looking at what we can even do more for our kids. And money isn't everything, please trust me when I say that, but it does certainly support initiatives and other activities we can provide our students if the imbalance begins to get corrected. And I know, Ann, thank you so much for your support. You've been doing that for years, giving us that data. I want everybody to know she has been awesome in doing that for us as we try to project long-term growth patterns in the county. But you know, you gave a shout out to Post One. Post One's another area of concern for us in terms of growth. Eric, when we started talking almost 2 years ago about what growth is happening, the growth is happening, but it's happening for us in the wrong area. It's condensed population growth, highly centered in that North Paulding and East Paulding cluster. So when we hear growth, you know, for us, we'd love to see that growth spread to other parts of the community, because we have just such a densely populated area there at North Paulding and down that 92 corridor really to Dallas Highway, that's a challenging area for us. And as growth comes, that brings other things with it. Right now we have 2 construction projects going on. We have an addition at Moses Middle School, 22-room addition at Moses Middle School, a 16 classroom addition at Russell Elementary School, and those are primarily relieve overcrowded conditions in the elementaries in the area that we're talking about, in the middle school in the area that we're talking about. Challenge with Moses is we also know that area is going to see significant growth. Dooley Road, other developments are going to be coming in there. So we have to plan not just for next year, but we also have to look into multiple years ahead of time as these lots become developed and we anticipate growth coming to them. So for us, you know, growth is a natural part of a community. But for us, we would love to see that growth more distributed in other parts of the county. And that, I guess, brings it to one of the last things I was going to share, and a lot of that has to do with sewer. You know, and I guess my question to this group is, sewer has come to Greystone. We would love to have some projections on what's going to happen now that, what is the impact of sewer on 92 South, especially with the widening of 92 that's going on, that will continue that through Hiram, because right now that's an area that has not been growing for us, but would love to be looking at what that future may look like, because, you know, that also has to go into the mix. You know, we can't, you know, we're not going to be able to project 10 years out accurately, but we'd love to understand better what we think that sewer, as well as the sewer that perhaps is coming into Dallas, what that's going to support in terms of what our district will support in terms of kids. But I'll just kind of, I guess, close by saying I just appreciate the opportunity to be in a group setting like this, hearing what's going on in the county, and know that we certainly support Team Paulding. And for us, you know, our issues are primarily going to be around how we can support economic development, to bring that commercial in, to correct that tax base imbalance, and where residential's going. So,
Well, Dr. Otot's being a little bit modest too, he didn't tell you that. We just paid a company out of Texas to come in and review the school district, and they just told us at our last board meeting that we were one of, if not the most efficiently run school districts that they've ever reviewed. So from a taxpayer standpoint, Dr. Otot's team is spending their money very, very wisely and very responsibly. That's something that I hope the theme falls through the rest of the group. His team works miracles at 90% graduation rate, and Michael, that's something that should definitely be on our economic development website.
Yes.
That we have a 90%
Yes.
graduation rate, because that's gonna attract companies. I mean, I think that a solid workforce, with basic good minimum education is important, and I think we need to leverage what our school district is doing from that perspective to help. But yes, it was nice to hear, as a person sitting, that has to approve budgets every year, that the folks running the show are spending your money very wisely, so.
And I'd say that is a public document. It can be found on a board meeting notes, and the full copy of that study is there for anybody who'd like to look at it. And I would go back to our Board of Education too. Our board works very diligently to provide us the most with what we have, but they also are committed not only to kids, but making sure we're spending our money properly.
Yeah, on new business issues and concerns where we are now, the BOC and the Board of Education, an issue that we really just got further into yesterday, and I'm gonna ask Sandy to chime in, is broadband and the extension of that, and as kids, some families have opted to virtually learn. I guess some of them still are.
Oh, yeah.
Certain percentage, I remember you giving me the
About
percentage.
9,000 right now.
Almost a full third of the
Yeah.
enrolled students in our district are working virtually right now.
So tying strongly into education and also economic development, because companies, one of the first things they're gonna ask is, are you broadband ready? And so we were on a conference call yesterday that Will Lyons set up, our IT director, most of you know. Will, and Baker Street was in there, Michael, who else was in there? Sandy, of course. And we need to find ways to extend our broadband coverage, whether it's, what's it called, where it's up on the wire, or where it's not underground. We prefer it to be underground, I guess. We were talking to Georgia Public with
Fixed wireless.
Fixed wireless.
fixed wireless, yeah. So a lot of we've been talking about topo in relation to building. A lot of our families couldn't be reached without it being wireless, off of the tower or off of a pole. But the company we were talking to, it's been around for 20 years, Georgia Public Web. And so I would just ask Sandy or Frank to chime in on the concerns that brings to the county and what we need, as a board of commissioners, need to be doing. We need money,
It's something that it affects everybody in this room, whether it be education, economic development. We don't have, as everybody knows, we don't have internet service in parts of our county. And we've learned through the pandemic that people need internet service, whether they're working from home or where they're school-age children doing their schoolwork from home. We've learned that there are a lot more people in this county that need it that don't have it, just because of the pandemic. So we've learned a lot. This company is gonna they've given us a lot of options to research, but like the chairman said, we all need to get together and work together to get it done, because it is very important for our future. That's where it's going, and we need to be ready. And we weren't. The pandemic hit just like that. I mean, the next day, people are at home trying to do schoolwork and working from home, and they just couldn't do it. So we've got to get this done for our kids.
Mike, you have anything to add on the economic development side?
I would just add to some of the new zoning categories that we're working on, highlight current trends in retail, e-commerce, e-logistics, and so to the extent that we can have this as an important piece of infrastructure, if you will, communication infrastructure, that we need to attract those types of companies to our community. So it's something
Chamber of Commerce?
Thank you. Real quick, want to touch base just on some concerns that I have in our chamber, but also some successes. I think 2018 and 19 showed such a trend of strong growth, not only with our membership, but in just our financial growth and success. So I felt like we were on a very strong high, and then 2020 hit. Obviously, our first area of concern is for our small businesses, because we're composed primarily of about 80% of our membership is made up for small business. So we're working very hard and diligent in the area of that support, and we partner with our Small Business Development Center to use them as a resource as well. It did cause us to kind of rethink the way we do things. I want everybody to be very clear that we are a nonprofit. I think people lose sight of the fact that besides membership or sponsorship dollars that we receive from our board of commissioners and from our cities, as well as tourism dollars, which goes straight to a tourism budget with very precise spending on those dollars, we don't receive any additional funding. All of our support is made up from our membership and our sponsorship dollars. So what we do and how we do it is crucially important. So when we miss so many events, it did cause us to sit back and think, are we truly serving our members and our community to the best of our ability? And what that caused us to do was create 2 new events for 2020. One being right away a support local event. We replaced an event that we typically take outside of the county. We brought something new into Paulding using a local venue, local caterers, local entertainment, even sourced the food that was presented through our farmers market, through local farmers and local vendors here. So that was really an amazing thing to do, and I thank everybody who attended that event. It was our dining and wine in the vine at our local vineyard. So I was very proud of that event, and we hope to continue to offer that in 2021. We also looked at doing something in honor of our public safety and our veterans. I felt like there was no better time than to support our community in those efforts to show the respect and to both those entities. So I want to thank you so very much, because when I see this room, I see true collaboration, and that is one of the biggest events we've done in Paulding, and probably the only one that brought in the partnerships that it brought in. Want to tremendously thank the airport, Terry, your staff, Randy, Yolanda, you were instrumental in pulling that together for us. But it really did pull in the Airport Authority, our Board of Commissioners, the City of Hiram, the City of Dallas. I know I'm leaving somebody out. The Career Academy, College Career Academy was even brought in and involved. And I just thank the Museum of Light. So many people pulled together to pull that event off 2 weeks ago now. Seems like forever. But 2 weekends ago, right here at the beautiful airport, which brought in so many local citizens as well as people from outside of our community to come in and see what a beautiful asset we have. So I thank the sponsorship dollars and the success of that event. Again, that will be a repeat for next year. Again, we continue to work in the area of what we're calling small business essential, how we can continue to be essential to our small businesses and work hard in the area of economic development going forward. My chairman, do you have any comments or additions?
Just that our membership in our small business community and our business community here is, and you guys know this is the reason you guys live here and you serve here, they're special. The resilience that we see from the business community is, it's impressive. I was having lunch yesterday with one of our new members at one of our local restaurants, and the owner came by just to say hello. And what we always ask everybody's, how's it going this year, man? How's it going? And you're just waiting to hear it's tough. And he was like, we're having one of our best years ever. I'm like, really? Half of your tables are closed. He's like, you know what? We had to relook at the way things were doing. We pulled some tables out and made a bigger area for to go and pick up and catering. And he's like, there's blessings in the darkness. And I was like, that needs to be like our tagline for this year. Instead of wallowing in the darkness, there's opportunity and blessings in there. So that was, and that story is one that we're hearing over and over and over again. So our business community is strong and resilient, and our membership is strong and resilient. So thank you, Stacy, and the team over there. That when everybody else went home, they didn't quit working. So thank you.
I'm gonna send you a bill for that.
Okay, City of Dallas.
Well, I've got some things that are in the works going on. next Monday, a week from today, we will get our final on the LCI program that we got implemented for the city of Dallas. One of the big things that we are beginning on is the West Dallas Collector Project.
LCI.
What about LCI?
What, we don't know, what does it mean?
Livable Initiative.
Livable Centers.
Yeah, Livable
Okay.
Centers Initiative.
We all use that acronym, so.
Yeah.
See all that.
But then basically,
sidewalks and.
that gives us a guideline for the next 10 years for the city of Dallas of our new development and the direction we're taking it. And a lot of that has to revise of our downtown area, especially along South Johnson Street, and a possible new city hall, all that. So, but we get our final reading of that next Monday.
And up for adoption.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that so that we can get to work on that future for the downtown area. But more importantly, we got this West Dallas Collector Project where we're expanding our sewer treatment access. We have it on the east side, but we don't have it on the west side. And we've got that in motion to get that installed so that it will allow more development on the west side of Dallas there in the city.
With the six
Yeah.
pump stations.
Yeah. Because right now, we're, what, 2 months away, 60 days away from being completed on our upgrade of the sewer treatment plant from 1.5 to 3 million. So we've been working hand in hand, so that'll be done so we can add this west side of the sewer treatment. We can handle the growth. So we're excited about that. That's what
Have anybody new, that's kind of managed?
Oh, yeah. We have a new business director, Amber Wisner, who does a fantastic job. We've seen benefits from having her in place. You've been in place, what, since September? Yeah, and we already see a lot of benefit from that in the downtown area, but we're also trying to focus not just downtown, but throughout the whole city to increase our business district, to allow more of that to be developed. What else we got?
Can I add something?
Sure.
So, just, again, I'm Amber, nice to meet all y'all. Before coming to this position, I've spent the last 8 years in the sewer and water side for Dallas, so as Ann said, she shared data with us. So just to quickly touch on something that was talked about earlier, because I've been sitting here trying to pull up data and add real fast. Since 2016, the county has sold 772 residential permits that was on city sewer. Of those 772, 639 of those feed Moses Middle School. That's where those kids are districted. So just to kind of tell you like where our sewer basin is and what schools are affected, out of all the schools in the county, only 133 of the outside city, but city sewer didn't affect that one middle school because it's the old Cartersville road, kind of the center of old Cartersville. The other one is on Macklin Road. So just to show you growth and where it's at, in addition to all the permits that we've sold, but just those right there that are not located inside the city did affect Moses, which is probably why they're having to expand Moses Middle School. Just to kind of throw that out there, but I would love to share other city permitted data with you as well.
Anything else?
What about your big event?
Oh, our tree lighting?
Yeah,
Well,
that was amazing.
We're glad we got some positive feedback. Amber, again, was in charge of all that with our Public Works Department and our Recreation Department. But it was amazing Saturday. We had about 5,000 people, I'm guesstimating, downtown for our lighting of the tree.
And what I'll add to that from a business development point of view is while it was an event for the public and we've never had tree lighting before, I had about 40 vendors there in addition to my 12 or 14 businesses that were open. And the response and the overall consensus is they did more business that night than they have over the past several months because of the pandemic. So to get people there, to get items sold, everybody has to, economic development is part of business sustaining business. So to sell that and for those businesses, or just simple people who said, I live 3 blocks away and didn't know these stores existed. It was an avenue to create traffic. Humans are a creature of habit. One of the biggest changes is we moved the tree from the corner to the courtyard. You know, that was a big, why did you move it? The reason we moved it is because if I moved it to the courtyard, people would have to drive down Main Street to see it. If they drive down Main Street, they see the new businesses that are open. Therefore, those businesses may potentially gain new customers. I kind of think, you know, people are just used to taking a left or right at that red light, or so be it. And now if they want to see the tree, they'll drive down and they'll see our new commercial places that are open, and hopefully drive some of that economic development and business and build from a small level, but you got to start somewhere. So that's where we chose to start.
What you mentioned to me about after the event where you went to eat at and what they told you.
Yeah, so James said we're not just focused on downtown, so I wanted to make sure that I could do all of Dallas. And what we saw is we left the event that night and went to Tequila's, which is in the plaza, and the plaza could use a little bit of help. We all know it's been here forever. But what I heard that night, and I was there at 10 o'clock at night, was we were so busy tonight and we were so overwhelmed. And what happened was the overflow from the people that was downtown ventured out to the surrounding restaurants, and Tequila and some of the Ruby Tuesdays are those restaurants that surround. So they gained business. It wasn't a direct, we weren't directly trying to do that, but that was the effect that came out of hosting an event. The people came, I could never have imagined that many people would have came for, to watch a tree lighting, but at the end of the day, the businesses is what I was geared towards, and that it was working.
Yeah, we even had one of our restaurants run out of food at 7:30.
Not something to consequences.
Yeah, so they were a little unprepared, but like Amber said, we did not expect to have that many people downtown, so that was a great thing. So I think going forward in the future, they have a higher expectation of what the event's gonna be, the traffic and all that, and they definitely benefited Saturday night from all that, so.
The parade.
Yeah, we got the parade next Saturday. Of course, the Rotary handles all that, but, that'll be from 1 to 3, I think. So we're looking to have, a lot of people there. Now, we've received some complaints from people about having an outdoor activity and having so many people there, so, some people have not liked that, but we think as a whole, the majority, it's been a good thing for the community, and like, just be able to get out, and not be so cooped in. But it is outside. People can control their own social distancing if they have an issue or concern with it. So
We did encourage it.
Yeah.
We did have hand washing stations. We had masks available. And then the New Year's Eve.
all grow.
I heard that the Board of Commissioners decorated a trailer on Sunday. I couldn't attend, but I think about 1,000 people just come to see that, Sandy.
That was
Great.
Brian did a fantastic job.
You know, I was a decorator, dude.
We still
Who'd you
don't.
pay?
You had it in you.
You see your wife, did you?
Yeah.
Is that all, Mr. Mayor? Second, Mr. Mayor?
Well, we don't have any cool events. We're running our 15th annual Christmas tree lighting this Friday night. But I'm sorry to say it's probably not gonna be as successful as the one in Dallas. I'm not happy about that. And, I'll let that go for right now. We was talking about the 92 widening. To us, it's a 92 nightmare. We pretty much ignored it this whole process. Jody and I went and met with GDOT last week, and to add to the dismay, the guy who's in charge of the project says, his lead-in is, I don't have any money. Why are why don't you have any money? Anyway, they just gave him a whole $1 million to acquire property through Hiram on the 92 project. Sewer in that area is extremely vital to the city of Hiram and to add to the commercial development. We have 3 or 4 little mall areas right there on 92 between Hiram Sudi and Nebo Road. One guy bought a little strip area and he can't use it because there's no sewer. And Jody's been working with Lori Ashmore. We've applied for a grant for sewer, to bring sewer down to 92. But that is something that definitely needs to stay on the radar. 'Cause that development down there is going to benefit the entire county. We're gonna get more of that commercial tax money in there. We've got over 800 businesses in the city of Hiram right now. And if we get that 92 area down there sewered up, we could probably add another 15 or 20, maybe 50 more businesses down there.
Would that sewer, would it also open up residential development on that road?
Not a lot of residential down there.
It would be complementary mostly to the business community down through there. It could, as a side effect, open up certain areas for residential, but right now it's to extend the existing sewer. We have a lift station on the south side of Hiram on the 12-acre property we own, and it's to extend that line south toward Nebo Road, but on the east side of 92. But it will open up some additional access potentially to businesses across 92. They may have to pump to it, but
Would this be retail type business, or is there any light industrial application for that area?
there are no currently zoned properties for light industrial, except for one, which is Mr. Matthews, that does some light manufacturing, but that's about it right now.
But that can always change.
But y'all have failed systems, even like up there, at Strip 92, 92 in Nebo, that failed, I don't know, 15 years ago, so, it was failed, septic system failed, restaurant.
You have a prominent location such as the Cotton Gin, which has had to repair its septic system 3 times now. They're on the 3rd repair at this point, so their options are very limited should that system fail. And septic systems are finite in life expectancy. I mean, whether you get 25 years out of them, 50 years out of them, or 75 years, they will eventually fail. So once you build it and start utilizing it, the expectation is eventually you get to repair to another location or hook to sewer if its availability becomes accessible. And then also to speak to the mayor's point, we have businesses that have been languishing away in limbo because of the 92 delay. I mean, again, the running joke in Paulding is that there's a check of Nathan Dean holding $1 million cardboard cutout check in saying for this 92 widening from 1983. So that's the equivalent to the amount of money they have to do acquisition right now.
Which you're gonna get 2 blocks down the road.
No, it will not. We've got a veterinary practice that has been in place for decades that is having septic issues at this point. He's got another piece of property that he owns, but he can't invest in repairing his own property. He can't afford to go ahead and establish a new facility on the property that he currently owns. So he's in limbo, and we're getting no assistance from GDOT at this point.
It's my understanding from Lori, and I haven't updated in the last couple of weeks, that grant was looking good, but
Well, we do have some sewer down there that's currently active. But one of the guy who owns the main building downtown, he has agreed to tap onto the sewer, but he's dragging his feet. We need to get him on there, get that building on sewer. If not, we're gonna have to take alternate steps there, Mr. Attorney.
I just wanted to add that, I was sitting here thinking about all I've known about a sewer system and a septic system I've gained since coming to this county. Never appreciated it, never really cared what a sewer system did. I've lived in the suburbs in various parts of the country my whole life, and I've always had a sewer system. I've never seen it. It's the bottom of the toilet, and it's the bottom of the sink and the shower drain, and it all goes away. But what I hear repeatedly in this county is how the lack of sewer is one of the primary barriers for economic development in this county. And we come into a room like this and we talk about sewer availability and septic. What I think would be helpful is either have Lori's staff or Lori or somebody to come and present to a board like this or joint boards like this and saying, this is what sewer enables you to do. And these are the type of projects that your county will never have if you don't have sewer capacity. And 'cause I think and this is what a septic system does. And these are the limits of a septic system. And when septic systems fail, particularly for commercial properties, these are examples of the type of businesses that you'll get on a failing septic system. And I think that while we take for granted, I think kind of an educational session on what sewer does, what it doesn't do, what does it cost to put it in, and who pays for it, putting it in. You know, one of the reasons the north end of the county had so much successful residential growth is because the developer put the sewer system in the ground and not the county. But these are all things that we just don't really talk about. We just take it for granted. And I think it would be helpful to have an educational session on, 15 minutes on this is what you can do with sewer, and these are the limitations of septic. When I first came here, I heard a statistic that Paulding County was the highest per capita county in the state for septic systems. And, we obviously need to change that. And there's areas of this county that won't develop because septic is the only thing you can reasonably put in the ground. And we probably need to know what those areas are so that we don't focus our efforts on developing areas where the development costs would be too high because there's too much rock in the ground and the ground won't perk. What do those terms mean? Why is that important? But I just throw that out there.
Appreciate it. I was gonna call on you and Tom and, Angela.
Oh, let me close out on a positive note. I drove by the new location for the Taco Mac that's coming into the city of Hiram, and they are working diligently over there. They've blocked up a lot of windows. They've got crews in there doing some work. I don't know what their target date is, but it'll be happening fairly soon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Michael, do you have anything new business-wise?
No, sir.
Okay, I think we pretty well covered the agenda. Do we have any public participation that was required? Okay. Everybody get your calendars out real quick and let's look at our March calendars and see when we can set the next meeting up. How does Wednesday, March the 10th look for everybody?
So far, good.
That's the chamber board meeting then.
We have a meeting.
All right, so how about the 8th? That work?
You may not have these two attorneys here. I actually have to go to court that morning, but don't do anything illegal.
Well, does the week of the 15th work better? Monday the 15th?
Yes.
Miss Angela, does that work? All right, so you guys put that, would somebody please put out a calendar, tentative calendar invite to everybody?
Yeah, we'll get it out.
All right, so our attorneys are keeping me in check here. We got 4 entities here that are gonna need motions to adjourn. Stacy and Tommy, on behalf of the IBA, the Airport Authority, and the EDO, if you two guys could make a motion, that gets 3 of them, and then if Chairman Carmichael could make a motion to adjourn, that gets 4 of them. Before we do that, I want to say one thing. We got you out of here in an hour and a half. That was the goal here. The goal here was to get everybody around the table, keep the ball moving, and not waste your time. And so I hope when we schedule this March meeting that everybody can make a time, and we'll definitely work to keep it at an hour and a half, correct?
I think it's a great goal. I don't know, Angela left. I just like for Tom, and I'd like for them to say something. I'm gonna introduce Keith Dunn at the January meeting, but we're so glad to have him here. Anybody else? Talk about Amber?
You got anything, Tom?
I appreciate this, I think it's a great thing. I mean, I've lived here for a long time, and I think it's great what you guys are doing. It's the first time really we've seen this kind of collaboration between this many people, so I'm just, as a citizen, I'm just real pleased with it, and I think it's a great thing for the community. And just wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Come to the Christmas parade Saturday.
Take a piece of cake with you today.
Shop local.
Well,
Stay off of Amazon.
We met with Michael, and on his draft, on the draft economic development, the incentives and all, Dallas is very much on board with it and think it's a great thing, like you're talking about, if somebody comes in and wants to start a business anywhere in Paulding County, it needs to be uniform throughout all the cities and everything. On top, Paulding County will be a blanket, and then once, whether it's a small business or a huge business comes into Dallas, Dallas may have some things that we can offer, incentive-wise, and so, we could mesh things that we can do in with your draft, so, I think it's a real good start. It looks great. I'm glad we have this coming together, so, we can, go out and, not beg them to come, but, try to draw them in, so, I think the EDO is something that's badly needed. We're on the cusp of, trying to start, everything we can do to fill all of our buildings downtown and any new buildings that are built around downtown, so we appreciate that.
Dan, just for clarity, we'll do a 2-hour time frame, even though the objective is to get out an hour and a half. It just gives everybody an opportunity to save those 2 hours. So you'll see an invite from me from the same time zone from 9 to 11.
Well, somebody will get verbose, so it'll give us a little leeway.
Yes. It's usually you.
It is, I said somebody, I'm part of that group.
And then I have one other question. Mayor Kelly, LCI, what does that stand for again?
Livable Centers Initiative.
Livable, okay. Center initiatives, okay. Thank you.
One other comment, just for clarification from the group. In June, we talked about having a large meeting, and then every other one would be a smaller meeting. This is the third, so it's a large meeting. The way I look at it, I don't care how many people you bring. You can bring your whole city council if you want to. Any other comments on that? Remember talking about that, Dan?
I do. I think this is a good, the core group right here. And if you want to bring anybody from the organizations, they're welcome to come. It's not just you guys. If there's other people that need or could benefit from being part of the meeting, we absolutely would like you to bring them. I think that's what you're trying to say, correct? Yeah. Okay. With that, I'll entertain motions to adjourn.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Economic Development Organization, the Airport Authority, and the Industrial Building Authority.
Second.
You need a motion.
I'll make a motion from the BOC to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank y'all.